Well, good morning. It's gonna be a pretty short ride today. Like I said, I try and get out every day if I can, and I just got a lot of stuff going on, and it's cold. And for probably the third ride in a row where I should have been wearing a lot more gear, I'm not. But I did find a pair of one of those poor man's gloves, double knit stuffed cotton glove inside of a really expensive Harbor Freight work glove. Probably, I don't know. I noticed them while I was getting stuff around this morning and said, I'm going to grab those real quick. Just taking a little ride. Went and got the 600 mile done yesterday. Picked the bike up last night, and it was cold. And to nobody's surprise at all, I got up this morning and it was still cold. Go figure. It's almost like it's a seasonal thing. Who knew? So we're just taking a quick ride. I know, I'm already getting the looks. People are like, what? I was like, yeah. No snow, I go. So I think I got down to, it was in the 20s, or like low 20s, like 20. Last night, 22 maybe. And it's still cold. And it's going to be cold today. We're going to get that 4-letter word tomorrow. So, there's that. I'm not looking forward to it. So I figured, well, I better take her out, give her a little putt around the block. I'm a big believer in keeping things, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. And objects at rest, somebody important said it. I don't know who. Who am I, Nietzsche? I don't know. Some guy. But I think it's fairly accurate. So I try and get out all winter long. Last year, I think the longest I went without riding was probably a week and a half. I don't think I went a full 2 weeks without riding last year during the winter. And I'm gonna, we're gonna see what the weather gods have in store for us this year, and hopefully I can repeat that. So, but you got to have the cold weather gear on. I'm a large mammal, fairly self-insulated. Nobody's ever seen a whale freeze to death, and they swim through the Arctic. That's what I always say. And for these little short trips at low speeds, it's not that bad. Got to use a little bit more care, a little bit more thought, but it's not bad. So this is about the fastest little spot that I go through on one of my morning quick rides. My morning quick ride takes about 5 minutes. So what I'll generally do is, if I have time and I'm appropriately dressed, is I'll make that same pattern a couple, 2-3 times just to get get the oil pumping through it and everything lubed up, clean all the the ethanol. Ethanol's some nasty stuff. It's like, oh, it's saving the environment, it's doing this. Like, I've got my arguments with that. I'm not anti-ethanol. What I will tell you is non-ethanol gas, like 100 low lead that they use in aircraft. I have never seen a carburetor in an aircraft gummed up the way I see an ethanol carbonator gummed up, or a carbonator that runs ethanol fuel. Since ethanol came out, it started. I remember when I was in truck driving school, there was an ethanol field plant like right across from the place in this little chicken coop in Indiana. CDI was the name of the place, and it was over by South Bend, and you could smell the ethanol cooking all the time. So ever since ethanol fuels kind of came out, we get that green kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a greenish, brownish kind of gunk, and it just gets in everything in a carburetor. So, of course, this thing's fuel injected, but I have to imagine it's probably doing the same thing in fuel-injected carbonators. It's probably doing the same thing with the fuel injectors that it does to carburetors in some form. And then this one, it only uses 90 octane. I'm not sure if you can read it. I'm looking at the road, but I'm kind of pointing towards where the sticker is. So 90 octane only in this bike, or higher, and that's all I'm going to run in it. For the little bit of amount of fuel that it uses, I'm not worried about the extra. Some of the older bikes, you put 90 in them or higher, and they ran funny. So you got to drop the cheap stuff in it because they like the cheap stuff. But anyway, big believer in getting the fuel system moving in the winter so that stuff doesn't have time to gather and kind of coagulate around the places, the important spots. And then you gotta exercise the transmission. You gotta just exercise everything on the bike. So, and exercise you. You work on your core doing this. I can't imagine how fat I'd be if I didn't at least do some, bike rolls every couple days. So there's that. So anyway, everything with the bike is going along pretty well. I mean, like I said, I've had the pleasure of opening my wallet and having the 600 mile done. It was, if I didn't cover that, it was $165. It didn't take that long. I mean, I dropped it off. He said if I wanted to wait on it, it'd probably take about an hour. And I could have waited on it, but I was working, so I didn't want to do that. I just said, no, just let me know when it's done, and got me all built up. And when I showed up, I got it on video, but the ride home, I don't know, it might have been on the front of this video. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet. It's you see me? Thank you. It's one of those things where you just you don't think about it. You're all excited about the new purchase, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, maintenance, yeah. And then you wind up opening the billfold, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's right. I'm going to have to pay somebody to do this at least every now and then, just so that I can stay in on the warranty. So anyway, this is my little version of a morning quick ride. It just basically takes me around a great big block, and it takes 5 minutes. So normally in the wintertime when it gets a lot colder, I'll do this several times just to get everything exercised, and then park the bike. And I don't have those problems in the spring with trying to get my bike fired up. It just starts like it always does because it hasn't sat. And I'm not all rusty. As a matter of fact, I got to try and stretch the throttle muscle because I'm so used to riding in the winter time and winter conditions and the snow and ices and all the other good stuff that you're like, oh yeah, the pavement's good. I can actually pour the coals to it and go. So that's usually what winds up happening. So anything different, dangerous, or dumb, if you listen to this channel for the younger guys, like I said, most of my demographic, older guys, they already know this kind of stuff. For you younger kids, you young bucks, if it's different, dumb, or dangerous, you need to slow down before you fall down or get killed. And this is one of those things where you have times of the year, depending on location, in a seasonal area like Northwest Ohio, people forget how to ride. They forget how to drive cars in the summer because they're, foot brake, gas brake all the way. And then wintertime hits and the snow hits and they either slow down to absolute nothing and become a danger, or they're still gas braking it and, they wind up putting their new Charger in a ditch or whatever. It's just one of those things. So we want to kind of stay away from that. But at the same time, we just need to be diligent about how we're driving. So if it's different, dumb, or dangerous, and that's a seasonal issue where it suddenly became different. And if you act dumb, it's definitely going to be dangerous. But if you drive accordingly, it's no problem. So let's see. It's also another thing. I talk about the mirrors all the time. Mirrors. I get really stupid in the winter because I spend more time checking my mirrors coming up to the intersections. In the summertime, if I have to launch because somebody's not slowing down, I'm okay because I know if I twist the wick a little bit, I'm not going to break traction. But in the wintertime, I might not have that luxury depending on the road conditions. They're normally pretty dry, if I'm riding, they're usually pretty dry. But you may have that spot where it's cold, little frosty, little whatever, might not give you the same amount of traction. So in the winter, I get a lot more diligent about checking my mirrors and seeing the vehicles way before they're a problem. And I'm ready for it because my launch is going to have to be a little bit slower when I exercise it. It's going to have to, The other thing is these turns like this. Like today, I have no problem pretty much leaning it over if I needed to, but we get a little bit of that frost in the morning, that kind of thing. You don't really want to be leaning too much while you're doing the turns. You want to kind of keep the bike upright, and you really need to be good and paying attention in that friction zone. So, you know, we'll keep it in second gear and do this, and I'll just kind of, I'm leaning it a little bit, but not very much. I want to make sure I'm as upright as I can be, and I'm on that clutch. So doesn't matter, 4 fingers, 2 fingers. I usually use 4, especially in the wintertime, because the gloves are a little bit thicker. So if I'm doing some clutch work, I just keep all 4 on there. And then the throttle, just smooth and steady on the throttle. That's pretty much it. I don't want to waste a lot of your time. This is, the whole point, well, lots of points to the channel. One of the points is, you know, what are you doing? Well, this is what I'm doing. I'm taking a nice, slow, easy morning ride, but a quick one. I'm not spending a lot of time doing it, and it's just to get out here and exercise the parts of the motorcycle and keep everything running. Now, there's some drawbacks to riding in the winter. Clearly, not just the safety is a little bit diminished, and you need to have your skill levels up. So that's 1. 2, you know, they put road salt and sodium chloride and all kinds of stuff on the roads up here, and that stuff will just murder your electrical connections and your frame. If there's, you know, any damage to it, it'll eat it. So the other thing is, you got to be a little bit more diligent about cleaning up the bike, and this is one of those things that I don't like about riding in the morning before work, is I don't really have time to clean the bike up, any of them. So at least a couple of times a month in the winter, I start wiping stuff down, pulling stuff apart, and I love WD-40. I know, old guys, WD-40 sucks, it draws dirt, it does this. Okay, I love you in the most platonic way. You're doing it wrong. You spray it on, you let it soak into the stuff, and then you really wipe off all of the excess. And it's a world of difference, and you can take a really old thing, and I learned this from working on electronics and restoring old electronic stuff. You can take a really old thing and eliminate replacing a lot of the stuff just by soaking everything down with a light, spray of WD-40, and then wiping everything off of it. So I do that on everything, and the bikes last, in my opinion, a lot longer, and things are easier to work, but you have to go through and make sure, if you got throttle cables and choke cables, they sell little accessories so you can get in there and lube them up. Just, I'll lube them a couple of times in a season because I can. The book may say do it every 2 years. Okay, but lubricant's good. It's hard to use too much lubricant, to be honest. Use it to your heart's content. It's cheaper than replacing cables, that's for sure, especially on a bike where they don't make the cables anymore. And that's where I really learned that lesson. So I'm gonna keep this almost upright, real slow speed stuff, right? Almost upright, really, really slow, no problems. See that? It's just a thing. If you're gonna ride the winter, you want to know how to do it. Practice it a little bit. Anyway, if you like what you're seeing, hit the like button and the subscription. Go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications so you can get access to all of this content. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.